it's important to understand the role of the state in the formation of our curriculum and so forth. So, for very first slide, I love this quote: either America will destroy ignorance or ignorance will destroy America. And obviously, this has become a nationwide problem. It is a resurgence. Again, I emphasize resurgence of the religious right. In fact, one of the more powerful organizations is the Moms for Liberty, and that was founded in 2020. It has 260 chapters. Its focus is on book banning and also supporting candidates for school boards. And this is really important to understand, especially with the 2024 election coming upon us. They're targeting school boards in the name of parental rights. In other words, the right of a parent to intrude in some way in the curriculum and in what books you read and so forth. And its actions, the actions taken are to reject or ban curricula in the school districts, books, censor books, textbooks, flags that include the LGBTQ plus themes, sex education, systemic racism, or focused on diversity and inclusiveness. And that last part is very important right now for California because the state has established that as a main focus of our school districts, that we include diversity and inclusiveness. And of course, so does our organization. Basically, if you look at what they're looking at, it pretty much comes down to teach the basic instruction, don't make comments, don't expect students to question anything, just teach the basics. So the issue is and I'm cutting off myself here. Can you see the full writing on this? Okay, great. AUW, this is why California AUW, and I emphasize that, California AUW is taking action. AUW believes that high quality public education is the foundation of a democratic society and the key to improving economic prosperity and gender equality. We support academic freedom, civic education, protection from censorship, and bias-free education. And if you look at the introduction to our public policy, AUW's public policy priorities, the AUW California Public Policy Program establishes a policy policy directives that are consistent with our values of achieving fair and equitable opportunities for our diverse society, including access to diverse staff and curriculum that represents historically accurate information. So this is why we're doing it. People have asked, why is AAUW getting involved? We usually obviously don't get involved in election references, but this is why this is such an important topic for us. So now we're looking at how curriculum is decided, who has the power, and that kind of thing. The California State Board of Education, SBE, was established in 1852, and it is established in our state constitution in 1884. It is the governing and policy-making body for state public education. We have a state system in the United States. The state has the authority to establish school districts or not have them. It's a state power. It is responsible for the adoption of statewide academic standards for content and student performance, the adoption of curriculum frameworks, that is your state, adoption of instructional materials for K through 8. It informs and guides local development and implementation of specific curricula for K-12 students and serves as the basis for the adoption of instructional materials. So when people go to meetings, school board meetings at the local level, and think that somehow your local board can decide whatever it wants based on their values, let's say, not so. Okay, now we're looking at the role of your local school boards. And you have the education code for the state of California. It requires governing boards of school districts to adopt instructional materials in accordance with the state education code. And this is important to understand because I'm going to link this to the governor's response, to our attorney general's response when school districts do not do this. Local governing boards shall provide substantial teacher involvement in selecting instructional materials and promote the involvement of parental community members. In other words, there's a list that the state puts out of textbooks that can be considered that are acceptable. It is your local then to decide through the teachers informing and through the school board to make that decision. Boards will hold an annual public hearing and adopt a resolution that each pupil has sufficient textbook and instructional materials in core subjects aligned to content standards and consistent with the content and cycles of the curriculum framework adopted by the State Board of Education. Textbooks and instructional materials are reviewed and recommended by the Instructional Quality Commission, adopted by the State Board of Education, and are then typically piloted by teachers at the local school district level. So this is the structure, okay? And it's important to understand that. Okay, how many school boards do we have? How many board members? Well, there's over 5,000 board members in California, over 1,000 school districts. 40% of our state budget supports K through 14. And that includes community colleges. Districts vary in size, we know that, from 20 students to 700,000 students. Board members are elected by voters within their district. And this is something that is recent, a number of years ago. In other words, we take a school district and I'll take Temecula, okay? Because that's going to be a major focus. That district, that one school district is divided into 5 separate districts. District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if whatever district you live in, that is who you vote for. You do not vote in the other 4 districts. This was set in place by the state, hoping to provide support for minority groups who want to get on the school board or the city council. This is used in other local elections. But it also has the effect, and this is really important to understand, it has the effect of giving power to a very small core of group of people within that one single district. Because as you know, in election time, let's say 2024, you're going to vote for the high offices, president, senate, whatever. And a lot of people drop off by the time you reach the school board, unfortunately, not realizing that this is one of your most important election decisions, as well as your city council. And if you have a small group that is committed to this one candidate, then you're going to get in more than if it was done throughout the whole district, where you have to deal with a lot more numbers of people and so forth. Board members, okay, are not, school board members have no party label. So this is a nonpartisan race. And I emphasize that there's no party labels. But of course, lately we have found that political parties are getting involved in races that are nonpartisan more and more. They see it as perhaps a step up. They see it as a power control. And even though there is not a label, you can pretty well figure out, obviously, where candidates stand, or even have access to their partisan, their own partisan label. But it is a nonpartisan race. California School Boards Association, which I was a member of as a board member, they in 2019 said effective school boards are equity-driven, making intentional governance decisions that combat institutional discrimination and bias, both explicit and implicit, and eliminate disparities in educational outcomes based on socioeconomic status, gender, gender identity, expression, race, religion, national origin, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, or family background. The School Boards Association in California is used, it unites the board members, it has conferences, it tells us this is what is expected of school board members. It's a wonderful organization. Okay, next one. All right, what is our state framework? Okay, and this was done in 2016, the history, social science, which obviously seems to be that would be the major focus, history, social science. In 2016, incorporates new mandates, and the particular one we're talking about is called FAIR. It is the Fair, Accurate, Inclusive, and Respectful Act. It covers all grades K through 12. It completely rewrites some of the information to tell a story that reflects the contributions of many diverse groups, strongly emphasizes student inquiry, calls on students to conduct research, both guided and independent, evaluate primary and secondary sources, develop arguments, and make presentations. It places a strong emphasis on democratic values in the relations between the citizen and the state. It encourages teachers to help their students practice the skills of engaged citizenship. I was a history teacher, and in high school and also in a community college. And it's not the facts that you give the students that you hope they take away from your class. It is the intellectual questions. It is understanding different points of view. It is expressing themselves. It is researching, okay? And of course, that is part of the state framework. Well, we recently had, thank goodness, the passage of AB 1078. And this was to give you an example of what AAUW California is doing. We sent a letter in support of 1078. The governor was part of the reason for it being there, but we sent out letters to legislatures and so forth. This was sent out August 23rd. And equitable access to education and accuracy in historical representation remains a top priority for our organization. AB 1078 works to ensure California students receive diverse and inclusive education by requiring the State Department of Education to assess if local agencies are in compliance with state law, requiring public schools to provide diverse and comprehensive education. It requires local school districts with insufficient instructional materials to correct this, and authorizes the department to purchase adequate curricula if this district fails to enact changes, shielding students from learning about important topics such as racism, sexism, and gender-biased marginalization obfuscates the current oppression faced by the marginalized groups and uses the desired ignorance to hamper acceptance of others. And this law was signed in September 25th by the governor. Now, here's where we have examples. So you have the foundation of who has the authority and what we should do when local districts ignore that. And this is now coming about because obviously of the movement of the religion.